It never happens when you're looking through old photos. It never happens when you're listening to the song that reminds you of them. Instead, it happens on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. You're making coffee, driving home, folding laundry, or laughing at something completely unrelated. Then, without warning, one person suddenly enters your mind. Not because you wanted them to. Not because you were trying to remember them, but because your brain chose that exact moment, just when you were finally beginning to move on. And psychology has a fascinating explanation for why that happens. Most people believe memories appear randomly, and they don't. Your mind is constantly scanning your emotions, your environment, and even tiny details you don't consciously notice. A familiar scent, a certain tone of voice, the way sunlight enters a room, or even the feeling of finally becoming emotionally stronger can quietly unlock memories you thought had disappeared. The strange part is that your brain doesn't always bring back the people who hurt you the most. It often brings back the people who left something emotionally unfinished. Psychologists call this emotional incompleteness, when an important relationship ends without clear understanding, honest communication, or emotional closure. Your brain keeps the memory active. Not because it wants to make you suffer, but because it still sees the story as unfinished. Imagine reading a novel and discovering the last chapter is missing. You could start another book, but part of your mind would still wonder how the first one ended. Human relationships work in surprisingly similar ways. That's why one person can suddenly appear in your thoughts months or even years after you've stopped talking. But here's what surprises most people. These thoughts often become stronger at the exact moment you're healing. That sounds backwards, doesn't it? Shouldn't healing make the memories disappear? Actually, no. When you're constantly overwhelmed by pain, your mind focuses on survival. But once life becomes calmer, your brain finally has enough emotional space to process experiences it postponed before. That's why someone may suddenly come back into your thoughts just as you're starting to feel happy again. Not because you're moving backward, because your mind is finally strong enough to finish processing what happened. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume thinking about someone means they should contact them. Psychology doesn't necessarily agree. A memory is not always a message. Sometimes it's simply your brain organizing unfinished emotions. Think about cleaning an old house. Before everything becomes peaceful, you often discover forgotten boxes hidden in the attic. Those boxes weren't created today. They were simply waiting until you had enough time to open them. Your emotions work the same way. Then something even stranger happens. You begin remembering the good moments more clearly than the painful ones. This isn't because the relationship suddenly became perfect. It's because your brain naturally softens emotional memories over time. Researchers have found that many people remember positive experiences more vividly than negative ones as the years pass. That doesn't mean your memory is lying. It means your mind is trying to protect your emotional well-being. Still, there's another layer that most people never notice. Sometimes you don't actually miss the person. You miss the version of yourself that existed when they were part of your life. Maybe you felt more hopeful, more adventurous, more open, more excited about the future. Your brain connects those emotions to that individual, even though what you're truly longing for is the feeling, not necessarily the relationship itself. Understanding this changes everything, because instead of asking, "Why can't I stop thinking about them?" you begin asking, "What part of myself am I trying to reconnect with?" That's a much more powerful question. Now let's look at something called emotional triggers. Have you ever noticed how a simple place, a smell, or even a season can suddenly remind you of one specific person? That's because memories are stored together with emotions. Your brain doesn't save experiences like separate files. It creates networks. One small trigger activates another, then another, until suddenly an entire chapter of your life feels alive again. The memory wasn't sleeping. It was quietly connected to thousands of invisible details surrounding your daily life. And then there's timing. Sometimes people enter your mind precisely because your life is changing. You're starting a new job, moving to another city, building healthier habits, meeting new people. Major life transitions naturally encourage the brain to compare your present with your past. It asks, look how far you've come, or sometimes what lesson should you never forget. That's why old memories often appear during periods of personal growth, not to stop your progress, to measure it. Perhaps the most important truth is this: thinking about someone doesn't automatically mean you're meant to be together. It doesn't always mean they're thinking about you. It doesn't always mean the universe is sending you a sign. Often it simply means you're becoming emotionally wiser. Your brain is reviewing old experiences with new understanding. You're no longer seeing the relationship through the eyes of the person you used to be. You're seeing it through the eyes of the person you've become. And that's a remarkable kind of growth. Eventually, something beautiful happens. One day, they'll cross your mind again, but this time your heart won't race. Your breathing won't change. You won't feel the urge to rewrite the past. Instead, you'll quietly smile. Not because you want them back, but because you've finally made peace with the chapter they belong to. That is one of the clearest signs that healing has truly begun. Because real healing isn't forgetting someone. Real healing is remembering them without losing yourself. So if one person has been appearing in your mind lately, don't panic. Don't assume you're moving backward. Sometimes your mind isn't asking you to return to the past. It's simply showing you how far you've already traveled. If this message resonated with you, leave one word in the comments: forward. And if you enjoy thoughtful relationship psychology and human behavior explained in a simple, meaningful way, subscribe to Heart Whisper for more videos like this.